Hello, amazing viewers and even more amazing subscribers. There's more of you every day and I welcome you. It's always nice to see you commenting, watching and of course subscribing and liking. So I hope you've enjoyed all the episodes and today we are going to make another one. What we are hoping to do, you can see here the remnants of the previous missions, even a few probes on escape trajectories. These were meant to do science from the solar sphere of influence, but their batteries ran dry before getting there. What we are doing today, or what we will be trying to do today, is to get to Luna. And it's called Moon here in the game because the celestial body names haven't been replaced, but of course this is our own actual moon. And I think the terrain has been moonified as well, but I'm not quite sure about that. Anyway, we are trying to go here. We will not be landing, we will be making a flyby. Or I should restate, we'll be trying to make a flyby. So the rocket we have that we launched for the last episode has enough delta V to take a one-manned, unscienced capsule to escape velocity, so it will also be able to reach the moon. It won't have a lot of delta V to spare after doing that, mind you. But, oh wait, I have to go to the vehicle assembly building first, but it will be able, at least delta V wise, to set up a free return trajectory, that is, get captured by the moon, well not captured, but get into its sphere of influence, zip by the surface, and then exit in such a way that without applying extra thrust, we get captured by Earth's atmosphere, and then slowed down and re-entered into that. Let's see what this, where the vessel is, the New Ground 4. That's the latest one I designed. It has 10 stages and it will at this point be a fairly familiar rocket for you guys. What I'm going to do while I'm in the vehicle assembly building instead of on the launch pad is I will be adding some batteries, because even though the manned capsule doesn't strictly require electricity to function, the readings we will be taking, EVA reports and crew reports, they are electronic, so they need transmission. And because we are focusing on having the heaviest rockets possible, the largest rockets possible I should say, we don't yet have any solar panels or technology of that sort, so we will be needing the batteries to transmit our findings home. This should suffice. Let's put the fairings back on. Oh, wait, park them here. So, hello. There you go. Procedural fairings mod, it makes the fairings around whichever payload you design, so very welcome that. Sometimes it gets stuck here in these rockets, but then it's out of the atmosphere already, and that doesn't really matter. Maybe, wait, I'm going to try the other fairing, maybe, well, anyway, I'm going to leave it like this, I'm just rambling. I used launch clamps for the first time. They don't always spawn correctly with the rocket, but most of the time they do, and that is very nice. If we look at the Kerbal Engineer, we have 15.1 meters per second of delta V. It's not the most. The probe we sent out of the Earth system had 16 point something, but that had a lower thrust to weight ratio. This rocket has a decent thrust to weight ratio all the way up, and that means it gets to put these meters per second to good use, contrary to some of the rockets that I have launched before this episode. So without further ado, let's proceed to the launch pad. No, with some ado, we need to select the crew member, the first guy to see the moon. I think that should be one of our orange suited guys. Going for Bill. He will gaze upon the moon first. So now we can proceed to the launch pad and make it happen. One very important thing one should not forget when launching to the moon is that in the real solar system, the moon is not on a perfectly equatorial plane with the planet. So we will have to time our launch so that we can get into the proper inclination from launch. Because if we know one thing for sure, that's that the rocket has broken already. So I'm going to use this opportunity to time warp here. Let me show you what I meant. The moon is on a fairly inclined orbit, and if we set the target to it, we can see from our descending and ascending node it's 23.4 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to time warp until the KSC is on this dotted line, is on the ascending or descending node, and then do my darndest to launch into the correct inclination, because with this real solar system we sure as hell don't have the delta V to make big inclination changes en route. First though, I'm going to revert the flight. and hope that we get to spawn on the launch pad without breaking, because with rockets this large in the modded install that's not always a given. So I always check the F3 log before launching, because it's a shame to leave half the rocket on the pad. So let's have a look here. This seems to have gone more or less fine. And we have the in-flight engineer. If we can open the vessel tab, then we see how much delta V we have per stage. And the beautiful thing is that when we are ascending, this total delta V will sometimes go up, because then we are going through the atmosphere, our specific impulse increases, which makes our delta V go up faster than it's consumed sometimes. I'm going to leave this open so you can observe this. Before though, I'm going to accelerate time, and for that I'm going to need the rocket to stop wobbling so we can engage the proper time warp. And that's not going to happen, I don't think, and this looks very unsteady indeed. That's not going to happen. So to do that, I'm going to put a different rocket on the launch pad and use that for time warping. So not quite ideal here, but we want to set up our proper launch window. Let's see if we have a small... What's the smallest rocket we have? We don't really have a small placeholder rocket, so I'm going to just put the capsule on the pad and use that for time warp purposes. So a new flight and a capsule, and we can call this Warp Ship 1 in foreshadowing of our hopeful future, where we will have warp ships and stuff to spare. Well, a rocket scientist can dream, can't he? So, there we are, going to the map view, selecting the moon as a target. And now we time warp until, well, basically until this pod icon here is over this line. I think that does it. No, it doesn't, because my I have to keep the perspective, of course, through the center of the planet. So that was a fumble. I wonder if there is a better way to do this. I think this could be alright. It's hard to estimate this though. When I had the rocket, the larger one, it gave me the proper dotted lines to see the ascending and the descending node, but I think the pod is too small for this. Anyway, if we launch like this, we have to go in a southerly direction, like that way. We can attempt that, so I'm going to put a quick save here and put the rocket on the pad. I hope it's close enough at any rate, because of course we don't need to exactly match the inclination. As long as we get the flyby from the moon and get back, we don't really care about location. So hopefully that works out fine. So let's go again with Bill in the command seat, proceeding to the pad. So now, as we saw on the map, we need to launch 24 degrees due south. So that's let's call it 115 degrees. Now this rocket is not the best controlling rocket ship out there, so it's going to be a matter of, well, best guess really. And first, woof, that looked violent. Yeah, that certainly didn't go well. So going to revert that again. And let's call this administrative difficulties in the space program. So this is the drawback of a live commentary. I can't really edit this out without screwing up my narration. I'm going to use an old trick, hitting escape so the terrain gets loaded and then resuming so the rocket loads into that one. Ooh, that trick really didn't go well. Okay. Revert the flight to the launch. This has worked once already, So it should work. If it doesn't work this time around, I'm going to cut out the recording and make it work and then be back. But let's have one more go at loading the new Ground 4 rocket. And no, there's more explosions there. So I'm gonna give you a fade to black and I'll be back when it works. Right, here we are, it has worked. I hit revert and launch a few times. I have no idea what the difference is, but here we go. Now let's confirm our angle. We're not exactly on the ascending node, but yeah, I'm gonna call it as close enough. We're going to launch down at 115 degrees, so that's on the nav ball. That's this heading-ish, where the purple marker is actually. So we're going to just aim for that. And first things first, of course, that's to take off. I'm going to put this vessel information up here for you to see, and here we go. So that rocket very gently lifts off the pad, and this will take a long time, of course. But you can see the delta V display goes down very slowly instead of at the rate that it should be going down. That's the effect I wanted to show you. I will now cut out the video because this launch will take about 15 minutes and I have no idea what I could talk to you about for that long a time, and you would get bored and die of boredom. So enjoy this fade to black, and I will be back when we are in orbit or something interesting happens. See you in a little while. So, dear viewer, here we are. We are in orbit around Earth, and we have 2.657 meters per second left in our upper stage. Now, what I did, and let's first see how well that inclination match went. Not too great. You can see from this vantage point it seems alright, but there is still quite a difference in the two orbits, and that is about 14 degrees, so that's not great. That's not great. We didn't do too good a job of matching the KSC with the ascending and descending nodes of the moon. But more worrisome is that this maneuver node has 2661 meters per second, which is about the same as we have left. And if we drag this around our orbit, we see that at no point do we get anywhere near the moon. So that's some pro mission planning for you there. I think the ascent was pretty high. Most of the burn for orbit was at 260 kilometers. That could have costed some delta V, because in the last episode this craft easily managed a high velocity. But now I'm doubting if that in fact would have been enough. In any case, I'm going to try another launch. I'm not going to show that to you because you would die of boredom. I'm going to try another launch, do it more effective, and see if that works. If it does not, then I was prematurely enthusiastic and we can't yet go to the moon. That would be a pity though, but hang tight. I will be back with the second launch. Hello, welcome back. For you it was 2 seconds, for me it was another half hour. We are here in orbit with Bob. Bill is safely back on the planet, and today, in this launch, with the same rocket, we have 3009 meters per second of delta V left over. Now, if we go to the map view here, you see I set up an encounter with the moon for the cheap cost of only 2947 meters per second. So rejoice, rejoice, we are going to the moon and doing science there. Now our periapsis at the moon will be a rather high 46,000 kilometers. I tried to get it lower, but all the tweaking doesn't really get it below 18 and costs about 50 meters per second more. With this trajectory we go right back to Kerbin with a very low periapsis, so we should be able to re-enter the atmosphere after sampling the moon. So excitement of excitements. Hopefully we'll be able to do one or two different science thingies once there. and unlock more parts. Maybe not immediately, but at least we will visit the moon now for the first time. So let us time warp forward to our maneuver node. Let's see, in our vessel it takes 5 minutes to burn this delta V, so we'll start 2 minutes before the node. Let's have a look. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm going to burn the rocket. It will take 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes approximately. So, as is usual by now, I'm going to cut out and rejoin you, or make you rejoin me when this burn is completed. So, see you in a little bit. And here we are, still around Earth at 10.7 kilometers per second, just a hair shy of escape velocity, and we have 2.24 units of fuel left. If we go to the map view, look, there we have it, an encounter trajectory with the moon. It's a basic encounter. Basically, we're just shooting up, getting a peek at the moon from 39,000 kilometers and then falling back down again. We're not circling it, we're not going behind it, we are certainly not establishing orbit around it, but we will get in its sphere of influence and take a few pictures of it. And once we're at that high apoapsis, we are going to shoot back down to this periapsis, modify it with these 2 units of fuel, and then re-enter Earth. So let's first things first, time warp towards that moon encounter, because let's see, it will take 3 days and 18 hours, just a hair longer than the real life mission. But then again, they probably had some more efficient mission planners than just a guy trying something by trial and error. So I don't think I did too badly. Here we go, New Ground 4, nothing so not so glamorous a name as Apollo or Zeus or whatever, just new ground, we're going new places there. We brought 650 electricity units in preparation of doing EVA reports over a lot of the moon's biomes, but I think we're going to be so high in space that might not happen. We might have to settle for a simple crew report and 1 EVA report, but we will see just in a second. So here we are now in orbit, or at least in a trajectory dominated by the moon. There is the Earth, and where is the moon? I can't seem to find it. Go on then, I can use the nav ball to help me probably, point the nose at it and follow that. Oh, there it is, way in the distance. It is in the dark. We are at 64,000 kilometers of altitude over the moon now, so we will get closer. Let's do a crew report here. Crew report while in space, high over the moon. Great. 15 science points, and we can transmit that home, no problem. So there we go, transmitting that. I think that is probably the largest science gain in the past few episodes. Great. And now we are going to go outside this vessel and do an EVA report. Let's have a look at that. An EVA report while in space, high over the moon. 24 science points. Great. Now I'm only just regretting that we aren't going to go lower, because then we would get all the different moon biomes and a lot of different reports, and of course oodles and oodles of science, so much we can't even count it. But for now, these 24 and these 15 are very welcome indeed. Let's transmit this home as well, and perhaps we're going to get more science for retrieving a craft from a lunar flyby. Not sure if that counts, but we will see. And of course, we'll have to see if the craft can indeed survive re-entry from this ungodly altitude. We're not really at the moon, we are just at a very, very high altitude. I'm going to time warp now until our periapsis, which is going to be 39,000 kilometers. If we're very, very lucky indeed, this will still count as this will already count as low in space over the moon. It doesn't for Kerbin, for Earth, so I don't think it will, but we're going to have a look all the same. And it is a pity, it is over there, the moon. We're not coming close enough for a proper look, but let's have a go at a crew report here. No, that's the same. So, none of that goodness. This is the closest we're going to get to the moon. Going to say goodbye for now, and it will be up to bigger, better rockets. We don't need a lot more. We need about... I can make a maneuver note and see how much delta V we need for this. How much extra we need to put into our rocket. About 600 more for... Yes, this will count as low probably. 600 more. And of course then we want to leave again. So let's put that at 1500 more. That is a lot more. That is a lot more. But we might be able to do it with a probe, but then again we're not going to get all the science. We're going to get a bit of the science. I think maybe a robot lander, that should be a good thing to attempt next. A very tiny robot lander on top of the big rocket to put that on the moon. And then that can radio like 2 science experiments or maybe even just 1 science experiment back home. I might attempt that for next mission. So now we have a periapsis of 1 million meters, otherwise known as 1000 kilometers, 1139 to be exact, and we need to reduce that if we are to re-enter. We have to be thrifty with our fuel because we have 47 meters per second of delta V left, otherwise known as 2 units of fuel. So I'm going to gently blip the throttle and reduce that periapsis to something scary looking like 80 kilometers. And if we manage that, then hopefully we can re-enter in a few passes. I'm going to do 70 because the last time 80 took a really long time to re-enter. Oh! I'm certainly not going to do 50 because that's just damn scary. I'm going to go for 68, I've decided just now. Oh, gee, this is sensitive here. 71, 70, I think that is going to have to be it. And we have 1.2 units of fuel remaining in case we don't slow down at all. So now it's up to the time warp to bring us back down to the planet. And I sincerely hope we can survive. 2 reasons. We have Bob, the yellow suited Kerbonaut, who is of course a little bit more important than all the others, let's face it. But also because this vessel still carries science points to be had, and science in this game is paramount. We want all the science we can get. And I think I'm going to have to treat you to another nightly re-entry. Not the nicest way to do it, but, well, there's not a lot of control or influence we can exert over these matters if we only bring 1 unit of extra fuel. No matter what happens though, we visited the moon for the first time today, and that's an amazing achievement for Bob. So we're in the atmosphere now. We're going at 10.5 kilometers per second, so the heat shields are going to have their work cut out for them, let me put it that way. And we have a lot of electricity for the reaction wheel to keep everything in a nicely arranged attitude. So here we are 400 degrees on the engine, so we're going in quite hot immediately. Let's have a look. We are slowing down. We're periapsis is at 120,000 kilometers. That's cut in. That's just a third of what it was already. Now, the engine is getting hot at 600 degrees. We are almost at our periapsis, or what our periapsis originally was. Let's have a look now. It's still about 70 kilometers. So we're probably going to leave the atmosphere for this pass, and then the second time, second pass might re-enter. So remember, this 70 kilometers coming from the moon is relatively safe, at least on the first pass. And well, we used our orbiter, our spacecraft, as a throwaway heat shield, so our actual heat shield is still doing mighty fine. 48,000 kilometers. I hope we can do it on the next pass, because these 6 pass re-entries, they sure do take a long time. For now I'm going to cut the video, and I will resume it when we are once again in the atmosphere, because we're now well on our way of leaving it, and this bit is not so interesting nor tense. So here we are on the second pass. It might have been optimistic to say that the second pass would immediately enter us. Of course, even the tiniest velocity change will drop on orbit from here to here, no problem, but now we actually have to start shedding speed. We entered the atmosphere this time at 9.8 kilometers per second as opposed to 10.6, so we shed about 700 meters per second, and if we're going to do that, we will not in fact re-enter. So it might be 2, well, it's definitely going to be 2 passes because this is the second pass. It might be 3 passes or even 4, and God forbid if it's 5, I'm going to be crying, circling around this planet again. So we're now at 19,000 kilometers. I'm banking now on it being 3 passes. So this is the second, and then 1 more. Hopefully not anything more than that though. I'm probably going to be wrong, and it's going to be 5, 6, 9 passes, who knows. So this, we are already again on the ascent, and we're showing no signs of re-entering on this pass. So as before, I will see you the next time around. And here we are on the third pass, just at our periapsis of 68.4 kilometers, and we're showing no signs of re-entering yet. So again, my 3 pass is definitely it. Theory proved to be very, very optimistic indeed. Are we already at the point where our engine is going to burn up? That's of course an interesting question, and the answer is resounding no. We're at 670 degrees and already cooling. So one thing the 70 kilometer re-entry periapsis does, it's make it very, very safe. So if we ever have a very high valuable mission from the moon, and it definitely has to survive, 70 kilometers it is. But for the next one, if it's not an orange suited guy or not very much science on board, I'm going to go for 60. See how that goes. So we're at 4.5 thousand kilometer apoapsis. Now that is steadily falling, so I'm going to stick with my prediction of the next pass is definitely going to be the one. I'll see you then. And here we are on the magical 4th run. Our engine is steadily heating up more and more. It's now approaching 800 degrees, and our periapsis is under 65 kilometers. Let's have a peek at the map view. Our apoapsis is now just 1,200 kilometers. We might just make it to a full re-entry on this pass. The SAS system is keeping the craft oriented properly. Well, we can expect the batteries to burn off before long, although they are strangely resistant. I've never seen a battery pack burn off before. Well, I've seen whole crafts incinerate, so that doesn't mean so much. If we can rotate it a little bit, then now this battery pack gets to cool and this gets to burn. Anyway, these battery packs are probably toast, as is the engine here. That's approaching 1,000 degrees, or just surpassing 1,000 degrees really. And we are now at 62 kilometers, and I can definitely say we are going in. See, the apoapsis, well, the periapsis has disappeared, and the only question now is where will we land? Will it be an easily recoverable place, or do the Kerbal Navy, Army and diplomats have to expend a lot of effort to get the craft back? The answer is fortunately irrelevant, because these things are not simulated in this great game. So we're at 60 kilometers now, 7 kilometers per second, and well, still got 1.5 liters of fuel remaining. Might as well expend them, so let's throttle up. See, spit a little bit of fire of our own, and there it is gone. Applied the last 20 meters per second of braking to, well, braking. The engine is now rapidly approaching overheating and explosion. This doesn't matter, this is our first stage heat shield, our ghetto heat shield. There it goes. Oh, that was actually a battery pack, I think. Let's have a look. Yes, that was 2 battery packs that burned up, while the rest won't be far behind, I don't think. That's the other ones. We are losing electric charge. I hope that the pod's batteries are charged up. As a matter of fact, they're not. I might have to transfer some charge before, because I want those batteries to be strong enough to keep the pod oriented properly. Well, now these battery packs are free to burn up. Our engine is now overheating. You can look at the bar in the bottom left side of the screen, and it will soon explode, like now. Now the fuel tank is exposed, and that will soon burn off, and that will take the last battery packs with it. Now we have, oh look, there's the battery pack was floating on its own and exploded just a few seconds later. Now the pod is exposed. It's at 700 degrees, where our heat shield will kick in and ablate a way to cool Bob and his scientific brains. And of course the peculiar environment of cislunar space. That is something our scientists are very much interested in. What I'm interested in is see how this parachute is doing. It's at 340 degrees. Ooh, I almost clicked deploy shoot. That would have been lethal at this stage. And this antenna, if I can find it, that is at a similarly cool temperature. If we take a look at the shield again, temperature is under control, but the G's are mounting. Fortunately, our speed is decreasing as well, and we are already through the worst of it. We now have only about 2 kilometers per second to shed before we are at safe sub-kilometers per second speed. That's a term I just made up, but if we're going slower than a kilometer per second, I'm generally comfortable that the mission is a guaranteed success. Now I can only screw up by disabling the SAS and tumbling out of control and then burning, and even then we might still be fine because we're only going at 1500 meters per second. 1500 kilometers per second would be very, very problematic indeed. Not only for us, also for the planet below. So here we go through the worst of the shock heating. We can now use our, let's see, our surface readout here. We are definitely over terrain because the sea level is at, our altitude over sea level is 20 and our altitude over the terrain is 18. That tells us we are not over the ocean because, well, sea level is also ocean level. We're now going at 400 meters per second, which is a safe altitude to deploy the parachute. Now, this is completely dark, and as I said, this is pretty much a guaranteed survival from here on out. So I'm going to give you a fade to black, it's almost black anyway, and rejoin the fun when we're landed. So see you on the ground. So we are now at 50 meters altitude, safely dangling from our parachute, and look what I got. Got a crew report of flying over the highlands, so we've landed in a biome that we haven't maxed out yet, so I'm going to transmit that home for sure. Even though, yeah, we can do it, our electricity has only just now run out. So now we're going to pop Bob outside, see if we can get anything interesting. Let's see, an EVA report from the highlands, great. We can keep that data and probably want to store that, so now go outside again, let go, and maybe we can get an EVA report from here. Yes. Not the most points, 2.5, 2.4, but you know, points are points. And we can take a surface sample, which is 9 points. Amazing. This mission has been very good on the science. 25, I think, for the EVA report on near the moon, 15 for the crew report, and now 9 and 5 is about 60 points. And we get... Oh, no. We want to keep the experiment, so we're going to recover Bob and the pod separately. First, the pod. Let's recover that. And let's see how much we get for a craft that has been near the moon. That has scientific merits, I'm sure. Recovery of a vessel returned from a flyby of the moon. 12 science points. Amazing. So, that's 89 science again. And of course we get to recover the Kerbal himself with his soil sample and his EVA report from outside. EVAs. Recover you, boy. And we got... Oh. 0 science. I thought he had a surface sample as well. Or maybe he put that in the pot. Well, I don't know. Either he dumped it or something glitched. Anyway, we have more science than we anticipated, so very happy man. We have now 89 science points. And that means, well, we don't quite have the temptation yet, because all these sub-nodes, they cost 90. Look, let me show you what I'm talking about. What I want most is this node here. That gives us the Skipper engine. It's a 650 thrust engine with a 300 to 350 ISP. This is amazing for first stage. Excuse me, amazing for first stages. We can make them larger and we can put massive payloads in orbit, and that will make us very happy. It has the larger fuel tanks and, well, some other stuff we don't need. This is 160 points, so that's 70 points away. We can easily do it. I think if we get either a man close to the moon or a probe. We need a few probes. Alternatively, I could get this, the solar panels that would allow probes to the solar system and to the moon, because now that's too far. If we pack the whole ship full of batteries, then it still won't make it, so we're limited to manned exploration for the outer reaches. This is 90 science points, we could almost get this. I think I'm going to focus on getting this one. That will let us put a man in orbit of the moon, which will get all the science for everything else. So now then, we can't do the robotic lander on the moon because we don't have the batteries or the solar panels. So we have to do more manned exploration. I'm going to see if I can beef up the rocket to have a bit more delta V, and then we can get in orbit around the moon or close to the moon, which would already be amazing. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hit all those fancy like buttons, and I'll see you for next episode. This was Lorenzo. Goodbye.